Fabien, you have been extremely bullish on YouTube, and I love it because we've got a consistent partner who's now deeply interested in understanding the nuances of the audience. And you guys have an art of communicating the brand message. And I remember every time Faisal talks to our team, there's this conversation about, oh, we want to highlight only this particular feature. And then you send us screenshots and screen recordings of that particular feature, and we craft the message in such a way that we are very particular about the messaging, and that is very, very interesting. And what I've also understood is that you are one of those brands which have generated exponential output merely through YouTube, and that makes you one of the most successful brands on YouTube. And while a lot of brands have failed to crack influencer marketing or social media marketing, you've been able to do it effortlessly. And the beauty is you're not even from India, and yet you've been able to do it. And this is something that also requires a deeper understanding of the audience. So my question is, what is your approach towards social media marketing, and how do you view YouTube and Instagram as marketing platforms?
So first, before that, in India, it's incredible. I was surprised myself of the result and the return on investment you can get in India. We've done that all around the world, and in India, it was just more than what everything I would have expected.
Okay.
In terms of YouTube and Instagram, I'm probably biased because I don't use Instagram, so I prefer YouTube. Even though the CPM are much higher, we usually pay a CPM around $4 on Instagram, and on YouTube you can go to 10, 12 easily. The return we get from YouTube is way, way better.
Okay.
Especially because we have a product that needs to be explained. I think part of the success is the way we work. We don't want to promote ourselves. We don't want to talk about the company or whatever. We want to showcase the product. We want to showcase what the customer can benefit from what we do. So all our marketing is about the product, not about us as a company.
Interesting. So what exactly is so unique about what's your approach towards influencer marketing? Let's say you have a budget of, let's say, $1 million and you want to spend it throughout the year. What's your step-by-step process on how do you choose your creators and how do you craft your message?
First, I don't have budget.
Okay.
So the team is free to do whatever they want. They just should do high quality content. We don't have very much constraints neither. When we work with a creator, we want them to express themselves. They know their audience. They know how to do a good content. So we rely on them to just go with the flow. We just expect them to understand what we do and to promote, obviously. But we don't have as much constraints as traditional brands have. Then we try to be useful. Just have a good content where we talk about the pain points, how you can save time. We like when people learn something. It's not about us, it's about them learning something. I think for me, the success, because the team, we have set it up a year ago. So everything we have done in India, it's been done in 1 year.
In a year?
Yeah, with 4 people in influencer marketing, only 4 people.
Okay.
The reason it worked is because they had full autonomy and responsibility. They could do whatever they want, and they transferred this autonomy to the creator. So creator likes to work with us because we are easy to work with. And because they had this autonomy, because they had no budget, because they have their own responsibility, they did an amazing job. It just gives them the power to be amazing.
That is so interesting. So you're saying that culture actually trickles down from your employees to your partners.
Yes.
And so on.
That's the way we work with every partner. We want everyone to work with us to feel like they are treated well, they are paid well, that we are a good partner in general. We want just to do good.
But this is something that I've seen with European culture in general. Like my uncles, they've been fascinated by European culture because they've been to the Netherlands. They worked in several European companies, and once they come back, what they often tell us is how European companies often strike a perfect balance between autonomy and results. Because more often than not, they don't go together. Because if you give somebody a lot of freedom, in India, it is often perceived as, oh, you know what, this guy might actually mess it up. So in order to standardize the output, restrictions come in, constraints come in, and that often results into compromise in results. So my question is, how do you strike a balance between liberty and results?
So first, you have to be perfectly aligned with your team. You can give a good autonomy, but they need to know where you want to go. So, for instance, I don't give budget to the marketing team, but they know exactly what are the big strategies. We talk about the product, not the company. We have a CPM-oriented strategy, not a budget strategy. So they know where we go so that they can follow the strategy. Second, you have to trust your people. And even if when you trust your people, you may have 10 to 20% that will fail or do something you don't like. But the rest, the 80% will usually do amazing, even in India. You know, it's true that in India, people have less autonomy. They are used to this very strict hierarchies in company with the manager is the boss and he has a big ego and so on. But still, even though it's a bit of the culture in India, willing to be autonomous and responsible is a universal mindset. Indians like to be autonomous too. So if you give them autonomy, they will produce good results.
Everybody likes to be autonomous, actually.
Yeah.
And this is something I'm deeply curious about, because you mentioned autonomy. And what I find very strange is that Indians, when they go abroad, they give a lot of freedom to all their teammates. But if they're working in India, there's some bit of hierarchy that comes in. There's a lot of restriction that comes in. Now, this is not the case with Gen Z, by the way. Gen Z is like, we want autonomy, otherwise we're not working at all. Millennials, to some extent, they are a little flexible with having constraints, but when it comes to Gen X, they only have constraints. So we are actually seeing the rise of this autonomous culture in India, but this actually comes from Europe. Now, I don't understand what exactly is this cultural element that helps you be so autonomous.
I think autonomy alone does not work. You have to do it with strong leadership, guidance, education. You have to work with your team. If you see your team as a director and they will do everything, and you don't know the job or whatever, and you give them autonomy, it won't work. In order to make it work, you have to create a context. You need a context where people are well educated, aligned on what we want to do, with a good team spirit, when we all rely on each other. And when this context is set up, then it works well.
Could you help me explain this using an example where you gave complete autonomy to a particular person? You had certain KPIs, but because you never measured the KPIs, this person was able to deliver extraordinary returns.
Yeah, so it's every person actually. It's not only one, but let's make an example. You work with Faisal, who organized this podcast with you. You know, I recruited Faisal 1 year ago. So it's pretty new in the company, just started influencer marketing. And I just learned that he spent already 9 crore of budget. Can you imagine? Some new 1 year ago, 9 crore. And it has been really good. I mean, we have had super good return on investment, great collaborations, good content with creator. How could it be so good? Because everything is easy. When he negotiates, he can negotiate directly. You don't need to ask his manager, oh, can I validate that? Can I get this? He decides everything. So it's faster, it's smooth. And creator likes to work with him because he has the ability to say yes, no, directly. And he's not like, oh, I have to ask my manager, I have to approve this, and you get some delays. So because he has this autonomy, he can perform better. Of course, it only works because I trust him and his team, because the team does this. And I trust him because we work together, we aligned ourselves on what we expect, what we don't expect, and he's good. So
I love working with him too.
Yeah, you see the impact, huh? Working with someone who has autonomy and someone who doesn't have. I'm pretty sure you feel it on the phone when you negotiate, when you discuss about the content.
How do you build that culture from the start? Because let's say you're a small company. Now you're a big company, so you understand this very well. And now you also have a lot of liberty to fail in terms of the revenue that you generate and the profits that you generate and the funding that you've raised. But when it comes to a small company, how does a founder strike a balance between liberty and results?
It's at the beginning, it's easy. The culture is you. It's the way you behave with your first 10, 20 employees. You define the culture. You don't need to teach it. It's just because you work with them, you set up the culture. But as you grow, let's say you reach 200, 500 employees, the culture is not you anymore. It's the middle managers or the team leaders and so on. So there, you need to educate them, train them. So I wrote a book about the culture at Odoo.
You wrote a book?
Yes.
Okay.
It's called the Survival Guide for Odooers. To teach the team leaders and everyone below. And then we invest a lot in education. And we are super strict. If one of the team leaders is not aligned with the mindset, like he has too much ego or is not enough hands-on or he can make the team evolve, then we just replace it. So we are very strict with the culture.
Hi guys, thank you so much for watching the Indian Business Podcast. If you find value in our work, please hit that subscribe button, because for you it might be a zero effort task, but for us, that subscriber count is an important instrument to get great guests to our podcast and to make this podcast better for you. So if you find value, please subscribe.